Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, fellow colleagues here in the House. I rise today to pass on my thanks to many people here in this chamber, at home, and across the country that have been supporting me and my family during a kind of a difficult little patch in our lives. And I think a lot of you read the email already, but I'll just run through the quick chronology so you can understand who I'm thanking them and why I'm thanking them. Back on Sunday, September 29th, my family and I were having dinner with my daughter, son-in-law, our 2.5-year-old granddaughter, Riley, and our 6-month-old son, Nolan. And a very typical Sunday for us to get together as a family, which I think that many of us do. And Nolan had a little bit of a cold, so and a little congestion. Had been a healthy young fellow up until then. And we suggested, to my daughter, why don't you take him to see the doc in the morning and make sure it's nothing more than a little cold. She did that, and the doc was a little concerned about the congestion and said, why don't you take him over to the emergency room? They can give him some nebulizer treatments for his lungs and see, maybe to make sure it is just a cold. The treatments didn't do anything at the ED, and he continued to get more congested, and things kind of weren't coming around the way they wanted. And they said, as the day went on a little bit, that maybe that it was a little more than they could handle up in our health system in the Williamsport area, and got him on a life flight down to Hershey Medical Center down here to see if a little more expertise couldn't sort of get things turned around. Had him at the emergency room down here at Hershey, and they did some tests and some x-rays and determined that his heart was enlarged, and that was what was causing the congestion, sort of as in congestive heart failure. And at that point, I'm going to have to get my glasses out to get my technical terms straight. They thought that this was just caused by a viral infection, which would be myocarditis, which is an inflammation of the middle layer of your heart. And so they started treatments at Hershey based on that assumption at that time, and he continued to show no improvement, and in fact his condition was declining. At that point, they made the determination to send him on to Children's Hospital in Pittsburgh to get treatment and consultation by the renowned team of pediatric cardiologists and transplant specialists that they have at Children's in Pittsburgh. And that was an excellent decision, as it turns out. So Nolan's back on a helicopter and heads over to Pittsburgh on October 4th. And after several days of observation and testing there, he was diagnosed with with dilated cardiomyopathy, which to me means that his heart, particularly his left ventricle, the big pump, was barely working well enough to keep him alive and was probably permanently damaged. After a lot of consultation with pediatric cardiologists and the transplant specialists there at Pittsburgh, folks who I now commonly refer to as the wizards because they're just unbelievable what they have done and can do, his parents made a big decision that the best way forward for Nolan, given his condition, was to go on the transplant list and move forward with the transplant, which was a very scary and difficult decision for them. But I think, in retrospect now, it was the best decision. After that decision was made, that was followed by open heart surgery, a couple of them, where an external pump called a ventricular assist device was hooked up to Nolan and did for him, what his heart could no longer do. So after that took place, his condition started to improve to the point where he became stable enough to go on the transplant list, and our waiting began. In all, he spent 101 days at Children's in Pittsburgh on the pediatric transplant list. He spent a lot of that in ICU. Sometimes he was good enough to come out of ICU into a step-down room, but a lot of it was with ICU, which we were fine with. He got just super great care. During this time, our family, including a number of visits from our daughter who lives in Chicago, spent football season in Pittsburgh, then Thanksgiving together in Pittsburgh, then Christmas together in Pittsburgh, and finally New Year's. And for those of you who are representatives from the Pittsburgh area, we've grown to love Pittsburgh. What a great city. No disrespect, you know, to the flagship of Pennsylvania, the big city of Philadelphia. I find Pittsburgh to be just a great city to be in, and we've had a wonderful time, explored a lot of restaurants, and had a good time, even though we were there for a very serious purpose. So finally, on Thursday morning last week, we got the call that a donor heart had become available that fit Nolan's profile. So my wife and I packed up. Our daughter was home at the time. My daughter and son-in-law had been flip-flopping weeks, spending weekends together at Pittsburgh. And by the way, if you ever have a charity that you have a little extra money, you don't know who to give it to, I would recommend the Ronald McDonald House. It's been an unbelievable place for them. So we hustled over to Pittsburgh and spent a nice day with Nolan. He was in very good shape, which was great going into the transplant. Got to hold him on my lap, and we all spent time with him. And at 9:30, they took him in to be prepped, and the donor heart showed up. And about 9 hours after he went in, early on Friday morning, the 24th, Nolan had a new heart and was back in his room in ICU, detached from his friend, the ventricular assist device. And as I said at the outset, my point in telling this story is not to tell you what my family's been through, but to thank all the people who have taken care of Nolan along the way, who've prayed for us, who've helped us. And I just want to thank all the folks all the medical people who've taken care of him, but particularly the people at Children's Hospital in Pittsburgh, all the doctors, nurses, therapists, and technicians who have treated Nolan like their own child the whole way along. You know, when you spend time in a pediatric ICU unit like we have, you know, you think your story is the most touching, but you see so many other stories taking place. You know, we're in a pediatric ward, but there's floors of all the different things that can happen to children, and you gain a real appreciation for what's really important in life. As you watch parents and grandparents and families and friends struggle through heart-wrenching situations. And unfortunately, some of them don't work out the way the medical professionals and families would like, and that's what's even more heart-wrenching. We were continually amazed by the dedication of the doctors and the nurses. Just amazing how many hours they put in and how dedicated they are to what they're doing for patients. So I again thank everybody in Children's at Pittsburgh who worked and are still working today to keep our grandson alive. We'll be forever grateful for everything you've done. I also want to have a shout out to my amazing daughter and son-in-law. The strength that they've shown through this has been amazing. Those of you who have taken the time off of the email to look at the blog and what she's put out every day throughout this nearly I didn't know that she could keep it together like that, or that she could write that well. I've just been continually amazed by her and Matt's strength. And here's the hardest part. I thank the donor family who provided the organs and the heart for Nolan. You know, at a time when they're at their worst, the biggest grief, probably the worst thing that can happen to you, to be able to have the compassion to share with other children the organs is just something that I'll never be able to thank them enough. And I don't even know who they are. All I know is that they are somewhere within a 300-mile radius of the city of Pittsburgh. And I just want to reach out to them. If they can hear about this somehow, we will forever be grateful for what you've done, and our prayers for your peace are with you. In closing, I want to thank all of you here who have reached out to me, and our friends and extended family on Team Nolan. There's a fundraiser this weekend. I have to go play golf out in the winter weather. I'm not sure who thought that one up, but Matt and I will be there to represent the family, and for all our friends and family, all the prayer chains and everything that everybody has done for us. We'll never be able to thank you enough. And just want you to all remember that the power of prayer and positive thoughts is an amazing thing. And thank you for your indulgence, and God bless all of you and your families. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.